Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. The winner of Sunday's elections in Poland, the Law and Justice Party, can count on 194 seats in the new parliament, but is 37 seats short of retaining power. The search for potential coalition partners has begun. The opposition has 248 seats and has expressed readiness to form a government. The President's office says that talks between President Andrzej Duda and representatives of the party committees will take place next week.
The president will meet each of the election committees separately in order of results. The talks will begin as early as next Tuesday. The turnout was gigantic. The Polish people have spoken out. We will continue to implement policies consistently. Just 2 days after the elections, Donald Tusk appealed to the president to convene the Sejm as soon as possible, but the president still has time to do so. I would very much like to ask the president for energetic and quick decisions. The winning Democratic parties are in constant contact and are ready to take responsibility for governing the country. To convene the Sejm and Senate, the president has 30 days from the day of the elections. The current term of the Sejm ends on November 14th. There is no reason to shorten the term of the deputies. I understand the nervousness of Donald Tusk because he knows that the more time passes since the elections, the less enthusiasm there is. Politicians still do not know to whom the president will entrust the task of forming a new government in Poland, although according to the ruling camp, this will fall to the Law and Justice Party. From what I understand, the president wants to entrust the mission of forming a government to a representative of the winning party, so this matter, as I understand it, is no longer up for discussion, and perhaps this meeting will serve to calm emotions a bit, because as I observe the political scene, Donald Tusk is in a great hurry to take over the government. On whom then will the mission of forming a government fall? That's the mission Prime Minister Morawiecki will definitely receive. However, representatives of the opposition, which can count on 248 seats in the 10th term of the Sejm, take a different view. If a coalition is to be formed, it will be formed from the left, the Third Way, and the Civic Platform. Any other project must be thrown in the trash. And who will the president name as prime minister? I believe that a person from the current coalition, which will be formed by the left, the Third Way, and the Civic Platform. The National Council of Civic Platform was held today in Warsaw. During the meeting of politicians from the largest opposition faction, Donald Tusk was to be named as the party's candidate for prime minister. This is a politician who wants to return to power in order to carry out the tasks assigned to him, that is, to adjust policy to the expectations of Brussels and Berlin. On the other hand, Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki said that Law and Justice will continue to uphold the changes that were introduced during the last 8 years. It's the big tax cuts that have caused not only gross wages to rise, as we just stated here, significantly above inflation. Real wages have grown significantly through the last 8 years, but it's also the minimum hourly wage, which has grown more than 100% as we look at gross wages and especially net wages. After the elections, the Prime Minister and his proposed government must receive a vote of confidence, meaning he must win the support of an absolute majority in the Sejm. If the Council of Ministers does not receive a vote of confidence, the Sejm takes the initiative in forming the government.
Israel will not stop aid flowing into Gaza from Egypt, but supplies from Israel will not be allowed into the enclave until hostages taken by Hamas are returned. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said after talks with United States President Joe Biden. In turn, Biden called for an easing of the crisis in Gaza, warning of a humanitarian catastrophe. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak arrived in Israel today, promising Prime Minister Netanyahu that Britain will support Israel in its darkest hour, following the barbaric attack on Israel by armed Hamas militants on the 7th of October. Regarding the hostages, I clarified 3 things for President Biden. First, I demanded the return of our hostages, and we are working together for their return in every way possible. Second, until their return, we demand the Red Cross visit our hostages. Third, we will not allow humanitarian assistance in the form of food and medicines from our territory to the Gaza Strip.
I come to Israel with a single message. You're not alone. You are not alone. I was deeply saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you. I want to say to the people of Israel, Their courage, their commitment, their bravery is stunning.
I don't think that the U.S. is going to get involved militarily, but again, I think the fact that you have the U.S. naval presence now in the Mediterranean, for some analysts, suggests that the U.S. isn't quite certain that Israel's capable of dealing with a two-front war, and that the U.S. needs to stand by to protect it.
But I caution this: while you feel that rage, don't be consumed by it.
The restraint call, I believe, is designed to essentially remind Israel about the Geneva Conventions and to do its best to, conduct a campaign that minimizes civilian casualties. The other piece of it, though, is the humanitarian aid. And that will be seen as having greater urgency after the bombing of the bomb that destroyed the hospital.
Apparently managed to get the Israelis to allow the Egyptians to allow aid into Gaza during the course of his visit. So I suppose that's a good thing without reservation, but it's not a big thing. I think that governments and political leaders, when they enter wars, they think that they're going to somehow produce a decisive outcome. And if we look at Middle Eastern wars of the last 50 years, that almost never happens.
Prime Minister Sunak, Rishi, I want to thank you for your solidarity, your clear, unwavering support from the minute this war began. I think the fact that you came to Israel tells us a lot. I said to President Biden yesterday that there's one thing more heartwarming than standing with Israel, it's standing in Israel. And the fact that you came here to do that is a very strong statement of support, which we deeply appreciate.
You describe this as Israel's darkest hour. Well, then it's for me to say I'm proud to stand here with you in Israel's darkest hour. As your friend, we will stand with you in solidarity, we will stand with your people, and we also want you to win. Can I also say that we have seen the scenes over the past day that have shocked all of us, particularly at the hospital, and we mourn the loss of every innocent life, civilians of every faith, every nationality who have been killed. We also recognise that the Palestinian people are victims of Hamas too. And that is why I welcome your decision yesterday that you took to ensure that routes into Gaza will be opened for humanitarian aid to enter.
The European Parliament has awarded the 2023 Sakharov Prize for Freedom of Thought to Mahsa Amini and the Iranian Women Life Freedom Movement. The President of the European Parliament, Roberta Metsola, announced the award today in the Parliament chamber in Strasbourg.
So, dear colleagues, I am very proud to announce that the 2023 Sakharov Prize for Freedom of Thought has been awarded to Jina Mahsa Amini and the Women, Life and Freedom Movement in Iran. The 16th of September 2022 is a date which will live in infamy, and the brutal murder of 22-year-old Jina Mahsa Amini marked a turning point. It has triggered a women-led movement that is making history. The world has heard the chants of women, life, liberty, three words that have become a rally in Iran, who, despite coming under increasing pressure, are leading the push for change. The European Parliament hears you, the world sees you, and we are with you. Zan, Zendegi, Azadi.
22-year-old Mahsa Amini was born in Iran's western province of Kurdistan. She died in police custody in September last year after being arrested for flouting the Islamic Republic's mandatory dress code. While Amini's family said she had been killed by blows to the head and limbs, the authorities said she had died due to existing medical problems. Her death sparked months of protests that spiraled into some of the worst political turmoil since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. In a Warsaw shopping mall, a 22-year-old Polish man posed as a mannequin in a shop window. He stayed there unnoticed until after the stores closed and robbed another store. Now he faces up to 10 years behind bars. Police officers in Warsaw's Śródmieście district have charged a criminal who robbed shopping malls. The man with a bag in his hand froze and stood motionless in the store windows, pretending to be a mannequin, moments before the store closed. In this way, he wanted to avoid being exposed by the cameras, police said in a statement. After employees and customers left the mall, he robbed a jewellery stand. On another day, he had stayed in the mall overnight in the same way, where he ate at one of the bars. He then exchanged his clothes for new ones, slipping into the store under the metal shutter. When he got hungry again, he returned to the bar for another meal. On one of his next attempts at theft, he was spotted and stopped by mall security personnel. The police were called to the scene. The young man has a record of thefts and burglaries at another shopping mall, where he also took cash from several cash tills after the mall closed and attempted to steal other items. That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.